we're an e-com business and everybody thinks there's a silver bullet. Everybody thinks that there's one channel that you're going to find. If you can become a pro at Facebook, or you can become a pro at Amazon, or you can become a pro at Google, or maybe you're trying to be a little craftier and you go down the Pinterest route or some sort of programmatic marketing, whatever it might be, you think it's a one size fits all. And we did early on also. And what we realized, it wasn't until about year 3 or 4 when we're sitting in our meetings, checking all the financials and all the different marketing channels we were using and realizing that there's no silver bullet. Like the combination and the levers in which you pull in your entire marketing strategy are what amount to a silver bullet. So in the early days, I can think back to it very clearly, like what channels worked well for us at what time, because it was always one of these things where we'd get a breakthrough that would last about 6 months. And then it fell off and became like a backbone while we looked for something else. So in the early days, we would do a ton of ground and pound, just not the same door knocking style. So pop-up shops, like we loved going to gyms. Breaking into that gym community was really big for us. So CrossFit was
ground and pound.
Yeah, ground and pound.
I love that. And so what does that mean? That means like hitting the ground, like, and actually just getting face to face with customers?
Yeah, that's what it was. We got lucky with a couple big wins. Like when it came to the gym, we would just show up there and have like frozen meat in a cooler and be like, look, we can have this delivered to your house. Do you want to give it a shot? And we would just have that one-on-one interaction with people. And once again, people who do digital marketing in any capacity, that the lifetime value of them is quite a little bit less, typically, at least from what we've seen, because they're ordering off of an ad. Right? Whereas anytime in the early days, like the longest lasting customers we ever got were the ones that we got in the early days. And that's because they met myself and they met Greg and they heard the story and they built that relationship with the brand early on. So when we would do pop-up shops and gyms, it worked out really well for us because we didn't have the money to run any sort of ad campaigns at scale. The customers that we were getting with this sort of ground and pound initiative, they lasted a long time. So our retention was really, really high with it. So that started off with just like your typical big box gyms. So we would do things like the LA Fitness and the Good Life and whoever would let us come in. And we got some success there.
What were the economics there, Mark? Were you paying the gyms or giving them a commission, or what was the...
Honestly, no. I think they just felt bad for us. And they were like, sure, like you got these 2 kids that are just like, they just want to do a little pop-up thing. But it was really informal. I think they saw some value in it too. Like for the gyms, right? They always want to put stuff in there to get more people engaged and involved. So it wasn't this very sophisticated business relationship. It wasn't like we were dealing with head office or anything. We would just go in, talk to a manager, and they'd be like, come on in. It's all good. So what ended up happening is we would do these big box gyms and we would find some success, but it wasn't until, and once again, now because we're seeing success there, now we're just, now we're running it as a system. So list out all the gyms in a city. We're going to reach out to them. We're going to call, email, show up, whatever it is. But when we started getting into new types of gyms, so especially CrossFit, that's where things started taking off. Getting into any sort of, and once again, maybe call it a channel partner, whatever you want, but the CrossFit community is an avid community. So when we could start breaking into that, you really started seeing the growth start compounding, because CrossFit people love to talk about CrossFit, and that's just the kind of the age old saying, but they love to talk about anything they love. So when we started getting into the CrossFit community and people started ordering, we actually ended up having it as a bit of a metric where if we got 7 people to order in a gym, we had that gym. And then now we started seeing consistent sales coming in week after week because those 7 people start talking about it. And I know 7's the funny number because I think that was Facebook's number too, where it was like if you have 7 friends or something like that. But we noticed that early on. So that's what I talk about when I talk about sort of the early ground and pound days, where the sales really were based on how often Greg and I were getting in front of people.